Two people, same age, same city, same $65,000 sitting in the bank, same $75,000 salary. One signs a mortgage, the other renews a lease. 20 years later, one of them is sitting in a paid-off home worth $800,000, monthly housing cost under $1,000, net worth climbing without lifting a finger. The other one has a liquid portfolio that would genuinely shock the people who spent 2 decades telling him he was wasting money on rent. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Neither of them made the wrong move, but one of them almost did. Not because of the market, not because of interest rates, because of a single number they never calculated before they decided. This video calculates that number, every cost the mortgage lender skips, every cost the anti-homeownership crowd buries, the actual break-even point, the actual 20-year outcome, and the specific answer that applies to your situation, not the average situation, not the thumbnail situation, yours. Before we get into the numbers, if this kind of complete no-agenda breakdown is what you have been looking for, hit subscribe right now. This channel runs real math on the financial decisions that actually shape your life, not the version that sounds clean on a whiteboard, the version that holds up in a spreadsheet at 11 p.m. when you are trying to figure out what to actually do. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss one. Meet Daniel and Ryan, both 31 years old, both earning $75,000 a year, both living in the same mid-sized city, same neighborhood, same commute. Both have $65,000 saved, which took them years of discipline to build. A 3-bedroom home 2 streets over just listed at $320,000. Daniel buys it. He puts $64,000 down, exactly 20%, which keeps him clear of private mortgage insurance. He takes a 30-year loan at 6.8% interest. His principal and interest payment lands at $1,672 per month. Add property taxes at $320 per month, homeowner's insurance at $130 per month, and maintenance. He budgets 1% of the home's value annually, which is $267 per month. Honest planners will tell you that number is the minimum, not the ceiling. Daniel's total monthly cost to own, $2,389. Ryan calls his landlord, signs another year lease, rents a comparable 3-bedroom 4 blocks away for $1,850 per month. He takes the $64,000 he did not hand to a closing attorney and puts it into a total stock market index fund. He also takes the $539 monthly difference between what Daniel pays and what he pays and invests that too, every month, automatically. On paper, Ryan looks like he found a cheat code. Same neighborhood, same size home, $539 less every month, and his capital is still growing in the market. Here's what almost nobody says at this point in the debate. The moment Daniel signs at closing, he is not ahead. He is behind, and not by a little. Closing costs on a $320,000 home run between 2% and 5% of the purchase price. Lender origination fees, title insurance, attorney fees, prepaid property taxes, escrow setup. Daniel paid $64,000 to get into this home. His real day one cost is closer to $74,000 to $80,000. That gap has to be recovered before buying mathematically beats renting. The real estate industry does not put this number on the listing sheet because it makes the first year look exactly like what it is, expensive entry. And here is the detail that quietly destroys the phrase everyone uses at Thanksgiving dinners. You're just throwing money away on rent. In month 1 of Daniel's 30-year mortgage at 6.8%, of that $1,672 payment, roughly $1,459 goes directly to the lender as interest. Only $213 reduces the loan balance. So in year 1, Daniel is paying $1,459 in interest, $320 in taxes, $130 in insurance, and $267 in maintenance. That is $2,176 per month, leaving his account and building zero equity. Ryan is paying $1,850 per month in rent, building zero equity. Ryan is throwing away less. That is not a renter's argument, that is arithmetic, and it gets more interesting from here. Let's run year 1 through year 3, because this is where the fantasy starts meeting the spreadsheet. Over 3 years, Daniel has paid approximately $86,000 in total housing costs, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and maintenance combined. Of that entire amount, roughly $7,600 has gone toward actual principal reduction. His remaining mortgage balance sits at approximately $248,400. If the home appreciated at a conservative 3% annually, it is now worth somewhere between $349,000 and $360,000. His equity sits around $100,000 to $111,000. Real number, real wealth. Also completely illiquid unless he sells the house or takes on new debt to access it. He dealt with a slow drain that turned into a plumbing job, $780. A fence panel that came down in a storm, $430. Both came from the maintenance budget. Both were annoying on a Saturday. More are coming. Ryan, over the same 3 years, paid $66,600 in rent. His $64,000 index fund investment has grown to approximately $85,000 at historical market returns. His $539 monthly contributions added another $22,000 in portfolio growth. Ryan's total invested wealth at year 3, approximately $107,000. He has not fixed a fence. He called his landlord. At year 3, Ryan is slightly ahead on liquid net worth. Daniel has more equity on paper. Daniel cannot spend equity without selling the house or taking on more debt. Ryan can access his portfolio any business day before market close. Neither is winning yet. The gap is still forming. Now let's talk about the costs that almost never appear in the buying analysis. The ones that live in the fine print and show up in your bank account. Selling costs. When Daniel eventually sells this home, he will pay a seller's commission, typically 5% to 6% of the sale price. On a $500,000 home, that is $25,000 to $30,000 out of pocket at the closing table. Combined with what he paid going in, his total transaction drag over a full buy and sell cycle is often 8% to 10% of the home's value. Appreciation has to clear that hurdle before the investment actually performs. Property taxes grow. Daniel's $320 per month is based on a $320,000 home today. If that home appreciates to $480,000 in 15 years, his assessed value follows. In most markets, his total housing cost rises over time even though his mortgage payment stays fixed. Ryan's rent will also rise, but his landlord absorbs the property tax exposure, not him. Maintenance is not optional, and it is not always $267 a month. Budget years look like $150 in caulk and a new shower head. Reality years look like an $8,500 roof, a $7,200 HVAC replacement, and a $3,800 foundation crack that appeared after a wet winter. These are not surprises. They are scheduled costs without a schedule. A homeowner who does not set money aside for them is not saving money. They are borrowing time against a bill that will arrive without warning. Opportunity cost is the number almost no homebuyer ever sees. Daniel's $64,000 down payment is gone from the market the moment it wires to closing. At a 10% average annual return over 20 years, that $64,000 would have grown to approximately $430,000 in a total stock market index fund. That is not money Daniel lost. It is the alternative path he traded for home equity. The comparison is only honest when you count both sides of the trade. By year 5, the picture shifts in ways that matter. Daniel has finished 5 years of payments. His remaining loan balance is approximately $235,000. His home is worth roughly $371,000 at 3% annual appreciation. Equity is building, slowly accelerating as the loan balance drops. He had one bigger maintenance hit, an HVAC issue that cost $3,400. He handled it. It set his savings back about 3 months. He kept going. Ryan's portfolio has grown to approximately $163,000. His $539 monthly contribution has been compounding alongside his original $64,000 for 5 full years. The number is starting to feel real, but here is what Ryan does not have that Daniel does. Leverage. Daniel used $64,000 to control a $320,000 asset. His $64,000 down payment is generating returns not on $64,000 but on the full $320,000. That is the force multiplier that makes real estate wealth building different from stock wealth building, and it is the reason this comparison is never as clean as either side wants it to be. When the asset appreciates, Daniel benefits on the entire value, not just his equity. Ryan's $64,000 benefits only on $64,000. That 5-to-1 leverage is the most powerful structural advantage real estate holds over index funds, and it is the thing the stock-only crowd consistently undersells. Year 10. This is where the story fully separates. Daniel's home is worth approximately $430,000 to $445,000 at 3% annual appreciation. His remaining mortgage after a decade of payments is approximately $224,000. His equity sits between $206,000 and $221,000. He has spent roughly $28,000 to $38,000 on maintenance over the decade. That is real money out the door. His total out-of-pocket beyond the original down payment, every interest payment, every tax bill, every repair, is somewhere between $145,000 and $165,000. Ryan's original $64,000 has grown to approximately $166,000. His consistent monthly contributions have added approximately $103,000 in portfolio value. Ryan's total liquid portfolio at year 10, approximately $269,000. On liquid net worth, Ryan is ahead. Daniel's equity of roughly $213,000 trails Ryan's $269,000 in invested assets. But something important has shifted in the cost structure. Ryan's rent by year 10 has climbed to approximately $2,490 per month, assuming 3% annual rent increases, a conservative assumption in most growing markets. He is now paying more per month than Daniel. And his investment contributions have narrowed significantly because the cost advantage that powered his early years has compressed. Daniel's mortgage payment is still $1,672, locked, fixed. Immune to the inflation eating Ryan's rent, the gap Ryan had in year 1 is closing, and the next 10 years are where it fully inverts. Year 20. Daniel's home is worth approximately $577,000 to $600,000. His mortgage balance has dropped to around $172,000. His equity sits between $405,000 and $428,000. He has spent somewhere between $55,000 and $70,000 total on maintenance across 2 decades. His monthly housing cost has remained anchored to that original $1,672 payment, even as everything around him has gotten more expensive. Rent in his city has more than doubled since he signed. His payment has not moved. Ryan's portfolio at year 20 is approximately $490,000 to $520,000, assuming he held through every correction, never panic sold, and kept contributing even as his rent absorbed more and more of his income. His rent by year 20 has climbed to roughly $3,340 per month. In the later years, his monthly investment contributions shrank. The compounding that powered his early portfolio is now partially offset by a rent bill that never ends and never peaks. Year 20 scorecard. Daniel, approximately $415,000 in home equity. Monthly payment still $1,672, 10 years left on the mortgage. Ryan, approximately $505,000 in liquid assets. Monthly rent $3,340 and rising. No asset, no endpoint. Ryan is slightly ahead on total net worth, but Daniel has something Ryan does not. In 10 years, Daniel's mortgage ends. At year 30, he owns a home outright worth somewhere between $775,000 and $850,000. His monthly housing cost drops to taxes, insurance, and maintenance, roughly $800 to $1,000 per month. Ryan at year 30 is still paying rent, which by then has climbed to $4,500 to $4,900 per month. No asset underneath it, no floor under his cost of living, no end in sight. That is the number nobody puts on the rent versus buy whiteboard, and it is the number that decides everything. Now let's be equally honest about the buying side, because skipping this part is what separates an honest analysis from a real estate sales pitch. The break-even timeline is longer than almost every buyer expects. When you account for closing costs going in, selling costs going out, and the interest-heavy early years of the mortgage, buying a home typically does not outperform renting and investing until year 5 to 7 in a normal market. Buy and sell in 3 years, and there is a very real chance you came out behind compared to renting. Mobility has a price. Home ownership makes mobility expensive. If your job, your relationship, or your life changes in year 2, the transaction costs alone can erase any equity you built. Concentration risk is real and underappreciated. A homeowner in a market that stagnates or declines knows exactly what it feels like when your largest asset drops 20% and you cannot rebalance. Ryan is diversified across thousands of companies in dozens of sectors. Daniel's entire net worth is concentrated in one building, on one street, in one zip code. Liquidity matters more than people realize until they need it. Daniel cannot sell 10% of his house to cover a job loss. He cannot tap his equity without applying for a loan at whatever rate the market offers that year. Home equity is wealth you cannot easily access, and the process of accessing it always costs money. So here is the honest answer, and it is not the same answer for everyone. Buying wins clearly when you are staying in one place for at least 7 to 10 years. The transaction costs stop being a drag once appreciation and equity have time to compound. Below 7 years, the math rarely works in your favor. Your local price-to-rent ratio, the home price divided by annual rent for a comparable home, is below 20. Above that number, renting and investing consistently tends to outperform over long periods. Your rent is already close to what a total mortgage payment would cost. The financial case for renting weakens every year that gap narrows. Your market consistently appreciates. Leverage through a mortgage in an appreciating market accelerates wealth faster than almost any equivalent stock position can match. Renting wins clearly when you might move in the next 3 to 5 years. Transaction costs alone will likely leave you behind regardless of what the market does. Your local price-to-rent ratio is above 25. In expensive markets, renting and investing the difference consistently outperforms buying over long-time horizons. You are in a career phase where mobility creates real income growth. The flexibility premium of renting has genuine economic value that never appears on a spreadsheet. And here is the condition that makes or breaks the entire renting analysis. You actually invest the difference every month through every market drop without touching it. Every model that shows renting outperforming buying is built on that assumption. The data on whether actual renters follow through is not encouraging. Most people spend the difference, they upgrade the apartment, they take the trip, they find a reason. The mortgage enforces savings automatically through the payment every single month. That forced discipline is worth something no spreadsheet captures, and it is the primary reason home ownership builds more wealth for average people than the theoretical numbers would predict. Here is the question that changes the entire analysis. What if you did not have to choose? What if you bought a duplex, lived in one unit, rented the other, and let your tenant cover most of the mortgage while your own investment contributions kept running? What if you bought in a stable market and never stopped putting money into the index fund alongside it? The math on combining both is a completely different conversation, and the numbers in that scenario shift almost everything we looked at today. But before you go anywhere, the two questions that matter more than any market data: how long are you actually planning to stay? And if you rent, honestly, genuinely, hand on the table, are you going to invest the difference every single month? Because everything else flows from those two answers. The math, the comparison, the year 20 outcome, all of it depends on what you actually do, not what you plan to do, not what you tell yourself today, what you do when the market drops and the rent is due and the contribution feels optional. That is the only version of this analysis that actually matters. If this gave you a clearer picture of what renting versus buying actually looks like when every number is on the table, not just the equity side, not just the flexibility side, but all of it, please hit like before you go. It genuinely helps this content reach the people who need to see it. Subscribe for weekly videos that break down the financial decisions that shape your life, completely, honestly, with real math and no agenda. And drop a comment below. Are you team buy, team rent, or somewhere in the middle doing the math right now? I read every single one. See you in the next one.